Is it too much or not to say? Humans still have a part of their ancestry. It must be video. This will give you a different perspective on people. It's our natural cousins. And also about ourselves. When will people be completely separated from the wild part to be moved? In the next video, we're going to talk about another very important issue in the history of human development. Don't forget to pay attention at familiar times. And now, dear Life Vietnamese. Hello, and see you in the next video. I wish everyone a good day. Let's imagine a future world where the ocean is like a giant boiling pool. The water is so hot and toxic. Marine organisms struggle to adapt and survive. Every day, the heat reaches down to incredible depths. That water can't hold enough oxygen to sustain life. Elsewhere, the polar ice caps are melting rapidly. High seas swallowed up many cities. But that's just a small part of the nightmare. In the mainland, it's like people are being cooked by the heat. Every heat wave that goes by, there are thousands more who can't stand it. Our own bodies, you can't handle such extreme heat stress. Climate change. 7 rainfall often causes continuous flooding. The level of destruction of the storms is getting more intense. You see, changes in climate, but more specifically in temperature, can pull a lot of terrible impacts behind. And then a lot of people started wondering, we can survive in a world that's falling apart. Like that or not? The truth is our planet have been through climate episodes. It's worse than the last one. As you can see, there will always be adaptations to survive. And one of the most remarkable adaptations, it comes from our ancestors. In the first episode, our ancestors miraculously survived through the end of the White Age. But to survive to this day, it's a much more difficult story. Living on a constantly changing planet, adaptation is the deciding factor. That decision factor, it'll be clear in the next 30 minutes. Human history sets BA Earth's climate through periods. Adapt or die. We are still in the series. It's about human history in particular, and the history of the Earth in general, developed on the basis of the theory of evolution. Main content permission to start. 119087. A strange dark blue ship stopped in the Antarctic waters. That's what makes it so special compared to other ships. It's a 62 meters high structure above the cow. Not sad. It's a drill pipe capable of reaching depths of more than 8,000 meters. Although initially carrying the mission of a ship, oil drilling, but now it's on a mission. Scientific discovery. Scientific research. It has nothing to do with the water around the area. It's in the sediment that's deep below. On board, there's a group of 25 scientists waiting for the drill. Down. First, it's going to have to go through 300 meters of water. Then we get to the sediment. For the next 27 hours, the drill goes through layers of geology that are stacked. Get samples of precious geological sludge. It's one of the parts of the substance that has caught the attention of scientists. It's this weird red clay. It matches, completely reflective with 2 adjacent grey-green-brown sediments, even if it's only 20 cubic meters thick. This humble red clay. Again, the existence of an amazing climate period. The period we're talking about happened 56.0005 ago. The 6 Antarctic poles at that time had an average temperature of about 15 degrees Celsius. It's very different from the cold today. Many fossils from the coastal islands of Antarctica. There used to be a lot of plants here. Ocean wholesale included. Kim leaves and plants with flowers. Not only that, along the coast of Antarctica is very busy temperate rainforest. The animal fossils are clear evidence. For a lot of animals, we shared the living space together, and that includes our ancestors. The oldest primates. But how do researchers get the full picture about the environment, temperature and ecosystems from just a simple layer of sediment? How do they know the climate has changed? and affect life in the past. Our earliest understanding of climate change comes from fossils, especially the fossils of plants. These records can be found as far back as the 1080s. Of a scientist in ancient China, the name is Shen Kuok. He's a famous geologist, passionate about the study of sedimentary rocks and ecological change. Long before the Western scientific age development, at one time observing to study the landslide near the riverbank, the police accidentally discovered a lot of strange marks on the shore. Over there, it turns out they're fossilized bamboo, along with other plants that are buried. It's a very strange story. Bamboo, how it can appear in an area that's so barren, to be able to grow like this. So the judge conjectured that, at some point a long time ago, this area must have had a mild, humid climate, similar to today's bamboo forests. From there, when you find some animal or plant fossil, where they don't appear today, you have the evidence in your hands about the types of climate that existed in the region in the past. But the fossils are really good. It doesn't just tell you about the ecosystem in general. It also provides evidence of temperature, rainfall of the living period, so that people can estimate relatively accurately nearly all the necessary information. It's one of the best preserved fossils that we find, located in Massachusetts, Germany. Today this area is growing relatively dense temperate forest populations. The average annual temperature is always above freezing. It's hard to understand with such high temperatures. It can preserve fossils. The secret to this lies somewhere. The answer is a thin layer of mud under ancient lakes, similar to the red clay in the Antarctic Sea. This mud and the fossils show this place used to be very different. As of 47.00, some remarkable fossils have been found. It's from primates, primal horses and turtles. It's like the warm Antarctic coast. Our ancestors and other species together sharing a lush living space. Pleasant. But to talk about the special, there's two fossils, this grass and this crocodile. They store enormous amounts of climate information, including indicators that are more important than we think. First, the grass leaves conjures up images of a tropical paradise. They usually only find grass in areas with the lowest annual temperatures. It's about 10 degrees Celsius. The temperature level cannot be frozen even in winter. And for the crocodiles, they're thermopods, taking heat from the sun and its surroundings to maintain your body temperature. Crocodile eggs also need a relatively high temperature to hatch into offspring. So the area has these two types of fossils. Must have been very warm in the past. And it's clear that the environment is still amazing. With animals in general and primates in particular, there's no significant challenge at all from the climate during this period. But the discovery of the average temperature in Messi used to be so warm was just part of the problem. We don't know why it's like that. At Sal climate, the landscape and the biomes in this place, it's not as rich as it used to be. The climate can change, and we have no way of understanding change. How does it work? Forever until the 1800, the 2nd of when April, the French scientist Joseph Fourier published her theory. According to him, the atmosphere itself can hold heat. This discovery is based on understanding about a particular kind of energy that we now call infrared radiation. Infrared radiation is emitted from the sun or any high-temperature object. The wave of infrared radiation beyond the human eye's ability to see. The waves. This light also moves more slowly in the atmosphere. That's why our planet retains heat from the sun instead of letting it escape back into space. What this means is that our atmosphere itself, it's similar to a greenhouse. The greenhouse effect keeps the planet warm. However, what does this have to do with climate change? If the atmosphere retains its temperature so well, we're supposed to be warm for billions of years. The answer to this, it's the change in the temperature of the Earth. Components of the atmosphere will determine whether the Earth will warm up or cool down. Maybe you'll understand better. Follow the following explanation. 10 years after the Joseph Fourier theory was published. The next discovery of the greenhouse effect. It was discovered by an American scientist, Eunice Ford, this seemingly simple experiment. It's an amazing result. First, UNS prepared BA sealed glass tube and pumped different gases into the tube, CO2 and nitrogen respectively. Next, she added a thermometer to each tube and put them in sunlight. Sometime later, the temperature in the tubes begins to rise. It's not hard to recognize. CO2 is the fastest warming gas. Waiting to stop there, after let the tubes stop being exposed to sunlight. 2 is also a gas, has the longest cooling time in BA gases. The results of the experiment show that CO2 has the greatest impact on ambient temperature as the atmosphere shrinks too. We absorb more heat, keep the heat longer, and cause the Earth to enter a period of fiery heat. Such a temperature change, it's the conditions that lead to climate change. Tunisia, he was the first of many scientists studying the effects of CO2 on warming of the Earth. The future for climate science has really determined. CO2 is a heat-trapping gas, have a decisive influence in the atmosphere. The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere can be used as a thermometer. For a whole period. More geologic contraction means that time is warmer. Little gas contraction 2G mean with cold. The scientists can recreate the atmosphere of the past by using air bubbles trapped in the permanent ice. 9 Antarctica. And even without those bubbles, we always have other pads. In the process of gas exchange, plants that use the gas Confucius, also known as breathing holes. When there's a lot of contraction, 2 plants can breathe easily, so their leaves have fewer holes and vice versa. Just look at the number of breathing holes on the fossil leaves. We can know the amount, 2 during the time that the leaf existed. In addition to a way of measuring CO2 equally effective, is to look at the carbon isotopes stored in fossil form in plant cells. That's right. Plants breathe carbon-12, the most common form of carbon in the atmosphere, but for a period of time where the CO2 is low, they'll be less picky and start absorbing the carbon isotope 13. Summed up by many different methods, 2 in the atmosphere can be calculated relatively accurately. We're capable of creating a record. Copy climate description. Earth through CO2. In 500.0005 back here, the story of climate is told from this precious data. It will give us a lot of interesting things about how the world experiences different climate periods. It could be a warm period that we call the greenhouse period, with a lot of shrinkage, and another period with less contraction. It's called the banking era. 500,000.005
The world's oceans
years
are clean
ago, and warm, provide excellent conditions for the explosion of multicellular life. Over time, new life changes together. Geology is slowly diminishing. 2 in the air, and then a sudden event happened. Causes the amount of contraction to drop dramatically, pushing the world into unprecedented cold, causing mass extinction events for countless organisms. It was also the first mass extinction. World history of LED events. Happened about 444,000.005 It wiped out 85% of life on Earth, when almost all life is under the sea, and plants are just beginning to appear on land. The creatures that survived this great catastrophe, it's not just our ancestors, it's also the ancestor of most of today's animals. At the beginning of this event, the world is a very different place than it is today. The most obvious difference is that most of the 6 close together into a super 6. It's called Gondwana. Experts say that the global cooling can be started by the rise of the Appalachian Mountains in North America. It's sucking huge amounts of CO2 out of the atmosphere. It's chilling the planet all of a sudden. Sea level drops by 10 meters in a short time, leading to organisms not being able to live. Suspicious of new climate conditions. And then our planet goes through a lot of other upheavals, but not too significant. Up to 200,000.005 the climate is starting to heat up at a slower rate and a smaller amplitude. This trend continues to happen until the years when dinosaurs ruled the planet. Until the end of the White Age. The Earth is still much warmer than it is today. It makes tropical animals and plants. It's in places you can't imagine today. 75.00. So many areas of our planet are actually. It looks very strange. A huge herbivorous creature are moving through the bushes in search of food. The ice is melting. The day lasts a little longer and is slightly warmer. A long winter has just ended. Spring is coming on the land. What we know today is Alaska. The patchy rhinoceros need to lay their eggs early so they can take advantage of the warmth that hatched into a baby. Whether it's winter temperatures, those years weren't so harsh. But this is still the Arctic Circle, where the darkness lasts forever. For many winter months. The scientists can't explain that. How did this dinosaur survive through such difficult times every year? We only know that they've actually done something extraordinary. Fossils of both young and adults. Patchy rhinoceros. It's found across the Arctic Circle from Alaska to Siberia. And it's not just herbivorous dinosaurs. We've got carnivores that share a living space. Why is it so? Why dinosaurs could appear in the Arctic? There's an explanation that comes out that the dinosaurs that lived in the Arctic, they're all relatively smaller than anywhere else. Some species seem to thrive. Take this Chodo for example. They're small carnivorous dinosaurs. It's known to live mostly in North America. There are many fossils of this type found in Alaska, significantly more than elsewhere. This shows that they don't just tolerate the Arctic well. It's growing in ways that it can't anywhere in the world. It's a wonderful adaptation, maybe in part because of their big eyes. Try giving it the ability to see at night, and it's certainly very useful for months in the dark. With that, the cold is not a more worrying problem than the white part. Arctic Ring, it's much warmer than the average temperature we imagine. Of course it can't reach a tropical climate, where most of the dinosaurs lived. It's cold enough not to have any species. What are amphibians or cold-blooded animals, like a turtle or a snake, can live? Primates at this time have not yet appeared, and if there is, they can't stand this temperature either. It's a really cool, temperate environment, plus the adaptability that species possess. That made the Arctic Circle not desolate. That's relatively bustling with life. More surprising in the next 20,000.005, Arctic Circle continues to trend warmer. At the beginning of the ocean or the New Age, about 55 million 5 years ago, temperature rise slowly. Ecosystems around the world are learning to adapt to survive anywhere in the world. Subtropical rainforests also extend to the north. From the equator all the way to the Arctic Circle. Rainforests spread across the Arctic Circle, growing thanks to an abundance of CO2. The heat evaporates more water, creating giant rain clouds that accelerate this growth. The Earth has become a hot greenhouse, right? Meaning, places at the pole ring reach average temperatures up to 21 degrees Celsius, but greenhouses with such defensive plants, not quite a paradise. When the poles are fresher, it means, with the equator almost uninhabitable, with an average temperature of over 40 degrees Celsius, that there's nothing to worry about. We're always changing in terms of geology and climate. The warming trend since 200,000.005 years ago is the Earth is in a state of ice. Once again, ecosystems face the problem of adaptation. When our world starts to cool down, evolution has driven the changes. It's even more amazing. One of the most important changes comes from this plant. Grass is a relatively simple plant, but there's a self-protection mechanism that can't be underestimated. On grass leaves that contain tiny silica pellets, ready to wear out the teeth of any stupid creature that wants to eat. They're also very vibrant. They can grow back even in the most difficult conditions. Not so grass seeds are dispersed by the wind. We don't rely on animals to transport us. The first grasses that we've discovered in the record, the fossil is from the Cretaceous period, but they only really exploded in the late Cretaceous. It's getting cooler in the weather. Grass has choked the biomes of the world. They multiply quickly and began to form the first grasslands. open ecosystem begins step change. This is also the decisive step of creation to separate our ancestors from other species. Species of herbivorous animals form longer teeth to cope with being worn by grass. They've also developed many other special abilities. Some species gather in large groups against the hunts. Some choose to develop speed to escape from predators. In Africa, our original homeland, it's not outside the cycle of change. Today, Africa is divided into large areas, feeding different biomes of organisms, the center of 6 places that gather dense tropical forest spreading out from the central regions. These forests are vast grasslands and grasslands. The hot, dry desert is in the north. But the highly fragmented regional nature of the biomes, creatures in Africa, it's not always clear. The new environment that Africa has today, it's largely determined by how much rain actually falls. The different monsoon systems of Africa, deciding whether rain will fall and how much. Rainfall is not always predictable. Even at the time of 30 million before the whole continent was a patchwork blanket, with many different types of environments. So 30 million before climate. What's different about the African landscape? Why did those things change to create the Africa we know today? Africa 30,000.005 there are areas of forest interspersed with grasslands has taken humanity further. Each zone is determined by its own climate, instead of the climate common to the whole region. So the ancestors, we can easily access it, many different types of environments, to extract resources, instead of the same large equal region. This is the world of primates, like Egyptothesis, living in mangroves and inland forests. That's what we call Egypt today, although drier than the world's polar rainforests. But Africa's climate is diverse and humid. But not long after, Africa's climate and rainfall have changed strangely. This is not due to CO2. It's because of changes in the other 6 places, especially the 6 European countries. About 50 million before 6 India VA collided with 6 Eurasia. Let's start for climate change. The landscape is in Africa. These 2 tectonic plates caused the shock for a long time, before it's completely and stably merged. Volcanoes are also born from the rupture of the crust. Geology when 2 VA tectonic plates collide. However, by the time the Indian and Eurasian plates have equally light crusts, very difficult to bend or break. There's no plate long enough to go down. The VA impact formed the majestic Himalayan mountains. Thanks to the Himalayas, that the volcanoes that are born at the VA touch are restrained. CO2 is pumped more into the atmosphere. It's what created the Asian monsoon, from determining rainfall and rainy time for very large areas of the planet, including Africa. Over time, the rainforests are shrinking. About where the monsoon provides enough rainfall, the meadow was expanded to form a vast steppe. Our primate ancestors, in the face of difficult decisions, or follow the decline of the forest, or adapted to survive in grasslands. It's this decision that's taken humanity further, to almost every continent. 6 invaded every land in the world. Imagine one day, the earth is so hot that the asphalt melts, and bend all the railways. This is not the setting of a post-apocalyptic movie. It's the heat waves on the North Atlantic coast of North America in 1911. High temperatures strike coastal cities in July. It lasted for 11 days. It's the 6th century of temperature. For the first time in history, people noted the situation. Thousands of people sleep on the streets at night. Try to avoid the scorching heat. In that 6th century heat wave, 2,000 people died. Many people are even driven mad by the terrible heat. Our world is not always easy to live in. And while humans are now everywhere, we still can't quite deal with the temperature. You might be surprised that our planet is going through a phase. Temperate climate, peace and stability over the last 2 to 5 million years. But that doesn't mean we don't have to face with the change about temperature. In those millions of years, we're sometimes 4 degrees warmer. It's 8 degrees colder than average. Our ancestors have really adapted with the warming of the Earth, even in the most extreme conditions, without air conditioning. That natural mechanism is really effective to this day, even if there's a slight decline. How to adapt? The simplest is to regulate your body temperature. It simply means that we're moving somewhere to lower body temperature. It could be as simple as finding shade air conditioning, fan or jump into the water. In the long run, we need to move from the climatic zones. It's hot to be completely comfortable. It's not just that. We also have a lot of physiological adaptations to deal with unpleasant temperatures. Human skin has become less hairy. There are more sweat glands distributed throughout the body. Not only that, but walking on 2 legs is not also an advantage. Standing up helps us have less space. Skin must be exposed to more direct sunlight and more exposure to the wind from the sides. But even with these advantages, our bodies still have a lot of limitations. Remember when you move a lot or high-intensity exercise, our bodies have warmed up considerably, and in most cases, it can't withstand temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius. So we're going to use different ways of adjusting the temperature just mentioned to control. What's going to happen if we can't do this? For example, we can't find shade or water to cool. For example, the first thing will happen. It's a slowing down of the body. Muscles start to contract because of egg cramps, especially in the legs and stomach. We sweat constantly to try to cool down, until the state of dehydration, crumbling effect that cooling creates. With less water in the body, blood becomes harder to transport. Blood pressure rises, and our hearts are racing to pump blood to other organs. My sanity is fading away. We fall into a delirium, or we pass out. And of course, the end result is death. This is an important issue that we need to face. Temperature rise high. That's humans, warm-blooded animals. We can't turn off the heating. It already exists in the body, but not all relatives. Our primates are all like that. Small species like the mouse foxes are likely to decline. It even turns off the body's heating system. This means that throughout the day, the temperature inside their bodies is probably about 1837 degrees. Meanwhile, people, we consider our body temperature to be dangerously high is when it drops below 35 degrees Celsius. This ability to turn off the heating in the body is called, and many small primates can do that. They can slow down metabolism. Use only the temperature of the environment to keep warm, instead of wasting energy to keep yourself warm. It's an extremely useful fact that humans don't have. So when the temperature goes up, we have to work very hard to deal with it. But of course, the Earth is not always hot. When the Earth cools down, the human environment is beginning to change. Our environment has become more isolated. It's demonstrated by stopping the heat from shrinking and the meadow expanded ray. So first, we need to be able to move the longer distances. Once again, upright posture. It's an extremely useful feature adaptation. Walking on 2 feet significantly faster. It's also much less energy intensive compared to moving by 4 chi. So we've conquered a lot of environments, living more differently. Relatives are 4 legs. Most of the primates, not all humans live in trees. Maintain the advantages of the ancestors left behind. While we choose to stretch out into the meadow, we may not have the best adaptation conditions, but it's always adapted in the smartest way. So the change in temperature never seemed to make it difficult for humans. But it's important to note that, in the process of warming or cooling of the Earth for millions of years, even rode 10 million 5, however, from year 2, not the warming of the Earth caused by human activity has caused the temperature to rise by 0.2 degrees Celsius every 15. Let's try to figure out how many degrees that number is going to go up if we don't act. Whether humans can win over temperature change, terrible self-inflicted, out or not. Concentration CO2 in the atmosphere increases steadily from year to year. It's the main cause of global warming. According to the results of the study in the past 55, CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere have increased by about 20%. According to the IPCC's fourth report, global average temperature has increased by 0.7 degrees Celsius compared to before Kia.